Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see you. It's always nice to see familiar faces, especially today, when we recognize the life of Pat Fogarty. That is one familiar face, that we won't be seeing as much anymore. But we do have some things that we'll talk about as ways that we intend to recognize her extensive time in life at Alfred State, which really was the life of Alfred State. Now, I had only had the privilege of knowing Pat for a little over a year now, and so certainly there are more in this crowd, including Tom and Cindy Gale, and Tim and Jean Morgan. Thank you for coming, or Tom and Jean Morgan. Thank you for coming. Who have been lifelong friends of Pat, including also many of you in the crowd. John Anderson, one of our past presidents, and Ron Naska, our current acting college council chair, who will say a few words, who've certainly known Pat.
You're laughing at the photos behind you.
That's good. It is a day of celebration after all. But all of you probably know many of these memories, and I get to hear about them, but I haven't lived through nearly as many as I would have liked to. But, for those of us who know Pat, it doesn't take long to kind of capture what she's all about, right? It takes maybe all of 5 minutes. And after that 5 minutes, what do you know about Pat? You know that she is an honest, hard-working woman who has given her life for everybody else. She is not afraid to advocate on behalf of others, and many times that included Alfred State College. She's not afraid to be the lead, in civic engagement and doing the right thing, and making others aware of what she thinks the right thing is. And I really appreciated that. It was one of the things that really attracted me here to Alfred State. I mean, she embodied what Alfred State was all about. When you think about those quality traits, people who are industrious, hardworking, can get the job done, who are honest and forthright and candid, those are the virtues of an amazing human being. Those are the virtues that she bestowed upon Alfred State College. And it's because of those virtues of her character that has helped shape the character of Alfred State College. And that's why we're here today, to recognize those many contributions. I'm going to invite a few others up to say a few words, but I wanted to walk through the program today. We'll hear from Dr. John Anderson, our immediate past officer in charge here at Alfred State prior to myself. We're also going to hear from our acting college council chair, Ron Naska, who's going to say a few words. I'm going to come back up then and also invite others to the podium to say a few words if you feel so inclined. And I will kick it off. There's a couple people who have wrote a few things that I will read for you, some longtime friends and acquaintances of Pat Fogarty, but I would invite any of you up to say a few words as well. After that, we're going to congregate upstairs to the new student leadership suite that we have named after her in her honor. And it's very fitting that we have the students for civic engagement who will be housed in that leadership suite, because that was what she was about after all. I'll then tell you a little bit about the scholarship fund that we've put in place for her. And if you're so inclined to give to that fund to support our students, I'll make you aware of how it is that you can do that. But let me take the moment here and pleasure to introduce somebody who was the second person I met at Alfred State College, Dr. John Anderson. This was the pair, who introduced me to the college, John being one of them, Pat being the other, and what a dynamic duo that they were. Talk about, a person who's come in and just feels incredibly grateful and accepted, at an institution. The two of those individuals, great individuals working together, I could easily see, what a rich history the both of them had together, and the stories that they told me about their times together, both the good times and the bad times at Alfred State College. But it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. John Anderson to say a few words about Pat. John?
Thank you, Steve. You know, it's always dangerous to give the microphone over to a former president. I haven't been able to do this in a long time, so hold on to your seats. No, just looking at these photos is really brings back a lot of memories. Pat joined the College Council in 1984. At the same time, I was a faculty representative to the College Council. So we started off together in 1984. There's a photo of us back there. You probably wouldn't be able to recognize me, but there's an arrow pointing to her. We served, as you can imagine, we served on many committees together. And I was immediately struck by her genuine interest in what we were doing at this college. And we really hit it off. We had our disagreements over the years, but as it happens, when the governor party changes, College Council tends to cycle through new members. So Pat cycled off the College Council in 2000. And what doesn't often happen is provosts get fired. And I left Alfred in 2003, and we kind of parted ways. And then, as it turns out, I returned to Alfred in 2008 as president. And shortly after that, when Lee and I arrived back on campus, it was an early Saturday morning, and I got a call from Pat Fogarty congratulating me on my return to Alfred. And she said, guess what? I'm coming back too. And she started, once again, we started together in different roles. She was chair of the College Council in 2008, as many of you know. And I was just so impressed with her fervent, her articulate advocacy of Alfred State. Every chancellor knew who she was. Every elected official knew who she was, and that she represented Alfred State. And she did it with passion, she did it with dignity, and she did it with a lot of credibility, because she was an engaged person. You could find her on the football field, poetry reading. We even took her to New Orleans and helped rebuild after Katrina. And I have a photo somewhere. I should give it to you. See her in a hard hat in a basement, nailing up a wall. She was everywhere, and she loved the students. She loved the faculty. She loved this community. And many of you know she's a devout Catholic, and she's also, many of you may not know, her passion was presidential history. So she had Irish settlers all her life, and she would name them John Paul, Delano, Theodore, okay? Which reminds me of one of our assignments. The new chancellor at the time, Nancy Zimper, decided that SUNY needed a comprehensive strategic plan. So she got, we called it the Gang of 200 volunteers from across the system to get together around the state to develop a strategic direction for the system. Pat Fogarty was one of the delegates from Alfred, I was, and Professor Regina Pollard was the third. And we traveled to Buffalo, we traveled to Plattsburgh, to Stony Brook. When we were leaving the meeting at Stony Brook, I was just adamant about getting off Long Island before 3 o'clock, otherwise we could extend our trip home another hour or two. We were driving, obviously. So we're going to through the parking lot, and she grabs the keys out of my hand. I go, what are you doing? She goes, I'm driving. I said, no, Pat. I don't know if you're insured to drive a state car, it gets complicated. Let me drive. I just want to get off the island. She goes, no, get in. She hopped behind the driver's seat. Regina and I got in the car. And I go, do you know where you're going? She goes, yeah. We're going to go to Teddy Roosevelt's house in Oyster Bay. I go, no, we're not. She goes, I'm driving. We're going. I said, Pat, we got to get off this island before 3 o'clock. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in traffic. So we go to Teddy Roosevelt's house. Thank goodness it's closed. But she's looking in the windows, no tour. I said, okay, we can make it. This is gonna be good. So she still has the key, she gets in the car. I go, where are we going now? She goes, well, his gravesite's right down the road in the cemetery. We're gonna go visit his gravesite. So sure enough, about an hour later, I'm driving. We're stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic, not off the island yet. And she, sitting in the passenger seat, she goes, this is because of me, isn't it? I go, yes, Pat, it is. She goes, you're mad at me, aren't you? I said, just a little, Pat. She goes, that's okay, you'll get over it. That's the way Pat was. I'm going to miss her. I know the Alpine State College community will never see the likes of her again, and we'll all miss her. And thank you, President Marlowe, for inviting me here today.
Well, since we're sharing stories, I don't have one like that, but
You do, Steve, I think. I remember one day when she was having one of the meetings, Theodore had jumped out of the car or something like that, and you and your wife and your son were rescuing Pat. I don't know what happened, but I know when I saw her next, Theodore was alive and well.
Yeah.
You have a Theodore story.
Oh, I got a lot of Theodore stories. They came over to our house one evening, and the dog just was very excited, we'll say that. She was excited all over our floor multiple times. And of course, poor Pat was mortified, and I said, it's okay, I have 2 boys and a dog myself. This just adds to the fun and chaos. And that's, really, I think, the stories of the great fun, and adventures that Pat had. Those are the stories to remember. And so the one that I was thinking about was, boy, you just had a car taken over, but I had ice cream smashed in my face. So so we were at the week of welcome, my very first week of welcome, and I'm a brand new president, and I'm thinking, all right, this is so great to get to know all these new students. And Pat and I were doing the ice cream social, so we had this ice cream, and it just was not able to be scooped out. There's bees all over the place, but honestly, she did not miss a beat. She was having so much fun and engaging with students, and she said, you know what I think will be funny? What if I smash ice cream in your face? And I was like, I don't know if that would be funny. Before I knew it, blah, right in my face. I think it is. There you go. I feel like one of the few and lucky. And I want to invite Ron Naska up, our acting college council chair, to say a few words next. Thanks for speaking, Ron.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I brought a cheat sheet because I'm not so well off the cuff, but thank you, Steve. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for coming today to honor Pat. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ron Naska. I'm a college council member and acting chair. I just want to say on behalf of the college council, we'll be forever grateful for the 30 plus years of service Pat has given to the college, 22 of which were chairperson during 2 separate time periods, which is remarkable in itself. And again, you're looking at all these pictures. I'm acting, and even if I become a full chair, I'll still be acting, because there's no way. If I lived to be 100, I couldn't accomplish all of that. Pat had an unwavering loyalty and never-ending passion for this institution. Besides their Irish siders, John Paul, Theodore, and their close friends, Alfred State College was her life outside of her day job. As many of you know, you could find her wandering about campus or attending as many activities as she could. The student experience, well-being, and success were always her main concerns. I'm personally delighted I had the opportunity to know her over the past 15 years. I started when John started as president, and Pat came back as college council chair. We all came together that same week. She taught me how to love, passion, and dedication. See if I can stick that script. She taught me how to love, passion, and dedication for. She She taught me how love, passion, and dedication for the responsibilities you take on in life can benefit so many people, as well as the entire institution, which she's done here at Alfred State. Pat put her all into this college and never asked for anything in return. Well, maybe a few to-go dinners for her furry friends from our council meetings, but that's about it. Again, thank you to Pat for all she has done, and what her legacy will continue to do for Alfred State community through this well-deserved scholarship and the dedication of the SLC suite. Thank you all. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Carrie, for being here as well as another fellow college council member. I have a couple of remembrances from some who wrote in that I'll read to you now. One also from a recently retired college council member, Charlie Craig. So we'll start with that. This is from Charlie. My memory could be failing me, but I believe Pat chaired the Alfred State College Council throughout my 20-year tenure on the board. Regardless of accuracy, Pat was the essential continuity for the ASC Council and its relationship with college administration, faculty, and students over many years. During that tenure, Pat successfully navigated 4 presidential transitions, including current ASC President, Dr. Steve Morrow. Importantly, Pat developed close one-on-one relationships with each ASC president and was able to inform and guide the College Council on key developments and decisions required. Finally, I always marveled how connected Pat was with the ASC community, including her vigorous engagement with the athletic teams, the cheerleader on behalf of the ASC College Council. That was another example how deeply she cared about the Alfred State community. Thinking of Pat as I write this note. And you could see 20, 30 plus years of pictures and memories there. Here's one more from Bill Snyder, ASC Developmental Fund Board member. Pat was an amazing person. I served with Pat on the College Council back in 1999-2000 and had an opportunity to get to know her. She was so amazingly dedicated to Alfred and the students. She served as a model for me at the time and inspired me to remain involved. It helped me realize at the time that there was more, much more, to being connected to Alfred than just attending as a student. She embodied that strive to do more and look beyond yourself in the moment and focus on those things that mean something and help others at the same time. She was also incredibly witty and a source of endless positive energy, but at the same time had a very straightforward and pragmatic approach to leadership. I can honestly say that there were times I've thought about Pat and how she might view a situation. She certainly had an impact on my life and many others. We are so fortunate to have had the opportunity to know and work with Pat, but more importantly, learn from her unwavering dedication. I truly believe that Alfred is what it is today to a certain degree because of Pat Fogarty. I would say a very big degree. I'd like to take a moment to invite others up who might want to remember Pat in a special way or to say a few words. Or even if you want to just say something in your seat, that's an okay thing as well. I know not everybody likes to get up. Thank you.
Too late now, you're committed.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Gale. My wife Cindy is over there. We were like real close family friends like that. We met her in 1984. I was newly appointed as a state trooper, and I was assigned to the Wellsville barracks. And when we came to this area, they said, you may as well buy a house because you're not going to get back to the Buffalo area anytime soon. So we did. We ended up buying a place right in Belmont, and we needed an attorney to close the house, so guess who we picked? It was Pat. So, we never knew Pat in the respect of being so tight with Alfred or so tight with Catholic Charities. We knew her more as just a friend that we would be with, that we would laugh with. She would come over to our house for a meal. We knew at the time she was living with her parents, but she still became real close friends with us. And there was a period when she actually moved into our apartment, which was attached to our house. There was a little bit of strife at her home with her parents, so she thought it would be better to live with us and, you know, be a little bit separated from her parents. But we really got to know her then. And there were times, Cindy was a nurse. Actually, she graduated from Alfred here. And she was the nurse of the year that year. Her name should be on a plaque somewhere in college somewhere. But there were times when I'd be working the midnight shift, and Cindy would be working the midnight shift, and Pat would actually come over and sleep on our couch and to be with our 3 children who were all underage at the time, just so we could work. And she would take care of our dog for us, and she had her dog too, which would sometimes be at the apartment, sometimes at her house. So we just got to know her in a little different sense. And the funny thing is we never realized until we, just recently when we were cleaning out her house, how involved she was here at Alfred and how much she really loved it. And when I first saw these pictures before she passed, we were actually had tears in our eyes because it was just something that she's just a very humble person. She never bragged about anything. She never said, oh, hey, I got this award, I got that award. It was amazing how she kept things separate that way. We knew her kind of as a silly girl. We had some funny laughs at Christmas time. She'd come over. If I was working on the road on Christmas Eve, she'd come over and help Cindy wrap presents or pick things under the tree. And sometimes I'd stop home on night shift and they would be having a cold one and be all silly and goofy. And me being a trooper and her being an attorney, kind of the joke was I would arrest them and she would get him out. I don't think that happened, but over my 32 years as a trooper, now I was only 10 years down here at law school, but we never had to go against each other in court. And I don't know if she avoided that or what, but because she knew she wouldn't win. No, I would be nervous going up against her in court for sure. Let's see, I had a couple notes here. She was a second mother to our kids. And then when she did move back to her house when her parents passed, when her father passed, and then she went back with her mother, and then she was in her house. We still had her over all the time for meals. We moved to Buffalo. When I retired, we moved back to Buffalo. So she would still come up for Thanksgiving, and she would, for Christmas and just other times. And she really loved the kids. She loved our kids immensely. She would take them shopping. She would take them to cultural things. I think she took my oldest son to some political rallies or parties. My son, and I really think Pat had a big influence on this, is now an attorney who works in New York City. So I really kind of credit Pat for putting that in his mind to become an attorney. The other couple that you mentioned, Gene Morgan, they were supposed to come today, and then he forgot he had a doctor's appointment, so we couldn't make it. But that was another family that had 2 children, and they lived in Olean. And sometimes she would come to our house for one meal, and then the next night go over to their place for a meal. And again, their kids grew up with Pat, and now their 40-year-old, who still calls her Aunt Pat, he's the one that has Theo. And when he heard that Pat was sick, he called us and said, if you need somebody to take Theo, and I know a lot of people were interested in Theo, believe it or not. Obviously, you don't know Theo. Theo is the sweetest thing. He just needs a little training.
Hopefully he's getting fed in the way he's accustomed. He's got a very sophisticated pen.
Oh, yeah. Arby's roast beef. I think that was one of his favorites. But they were very close to Pat too. Just a couple of funny things that I remember. When she would go out to dinner with us sometimes, my wife and I would be in the front seat, she'd be in the back. And every time we pulled in, stopped the car, she would be in the back, she'd go, I can't get out, my door's open. Okay, just give me a second, unlock it. Go a little further, go to another place. I'm locked in the back. Yeah, just give me a second. 2 years ago, she took Sydney and I and our 8-year-old grandson to the Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And she did this every year where she would go, but we never went with her. Well, we decided to go with her. And as we're getting in line, she says, see all that cardboard over there? You gotta grab a piece of cardboard. This is to my 8-year-old. Well, if you've ever been to the World Series, the Little League World Series, there's this beautiful field, and in the back there's this big hill. Well, all the kids just go sliding down that hill. And we said, well, now we know why we need the cardboard. Well, she made sure that we all were running down the hill on the cardboard, watching the game sometimes, but having fun on the hill. One other quick little story, my oldest son, who now is the attorney, she would take each kid out individually shopping for sometimes school clothes. Well, he's now 15, 16 years old, and they're out at the mall. I think they were at Gap or Old Navy, one of those stores. And here's my 15, 16-year-old son with this lady who could be his mother shopping for clothes. Well, she gave him a few pieces of clothes, going to the dressing room, and it's busy. It's probably, it's time for school shopping. And he's back in there, and he said, all of a sudden, I hear at the door of the dressing room, Matt, where are you? Put your hand up, man, so I can see you. I got more clothes for you. Well, Matt said, all of a sudden, my little hand went up like this, and he's down and down. And he said, it was a little bit embarrassing, but we got some nice clothes. So. Anyways, that's some of our memories of that. She's going to sorely be missed. Thank you all for everything that you've done for her.
Well, I have to really thank you,
Cindy, for in the last half a year, when Pat's health had declined, really, you just took great care of her, and you were constantly giving us updates and letting us know how it is that we could help. And I have to tell you, she always referred to you. I've heard many stories, but she always referred to you as my dear friends, Tom and Cindy, my dear friends, Tom and Jean. This is how I heard many stories, about your times together, and they just sounded like great times. So I really appreciate being able to hear some more. And your children as well. She really did refer to them as her adopted children. That's what she considered your family and part of her family, and that's just the type of person that she was. She considered Elford State part of her family, and she mentored and mothered all of us. So a couple times that I was thinking about those interactions. I met my first graduation ceremony, and it's a daunting thing, to get up there and to talk to thousands of people in this great big crowd, right? So I'm sitting there, and Pat and I were talking, and I'm chewing gum, is trying to keep my mouth fluid, with all the things that I'm going to have to say in front of thousands of people. And she goes, Steve, it's time to lose the gum. So I think you're right, Pat. And she was, as she many times was. Another, funny story that I think about, but it kind of gets to that dichotomy that you were talking about of this great array of wonderful personalities that we saw in Pat, because she could be incredibly witty and joking and humorous, but she can also be very pragmatic and direct. But they balanced each other out because you knew, whenever she was saying something like lose the gum, she was saying it out of a place of love, right, and support. And you always knew that. You just knew it. You never took it the wrong way because you knew exactly what she was saying and why she was saying it. And the humorous pieces, Halloween came about here, and again, my first Halloween, and there was this class. They said, "Oh, you got to come. We're all dressing up for class." And I said, "Okay, we'll come." So I said, "Pat, do you want to pop into class?" She said, "Yes, absolutely." So she comes, and she is a giant duck. I mean, head to toe, onesie, like. She had a onesie. I don't know where she got a duck onesie from, but she came in. I mean, I felt, oh my gosh, I didn't dress up at all. I feel terrible. She came in full character. She was quacking. I mean, we walked down to this class. She was quacking to everybody. But she just lit up the room. She just came in, did not skip one beat. Never spent her time lecturing. In front of students a day in her life, and just like that, in that brief 2 minutes, everybody knew who Pat was in that room and what she was all about. And I just thought that was fantastic. Who else would like to say a few words in remembrance of Pat? Yeah, okay.
So I knew Pat from 1996 on, and I feel like I'll count that at how many moments I did see get ice cream in their hair. That was definitely, Pat did like to have fun. I just wanted to mention that, one of the things I thought about Pat, when we were coming up with our institutional strategic plan and going through the process of finalizing, what are the college's core values and what are some of these things? The core values of the institution, at the time we were getting those approved and even consulting college council, it kind of occurred to me then, at her passing, I thought about this again. Our core values actually are really embodied in Pat. Respect, service, integrity, and dedication. Those things really are Pat. So she was a great fit for us because she is all of those things and was those things, and those are to this day, those are the institutional core values. Pat could be really, really challenging, and so things that would go to the college council would be changes to the parking regulations or changes to our housing, and she would be ready with tough questions. At the time, it felt like, wow, is she hassling me about some of these things? They seem so small. But usually when she came down to the last question, you realize it kind of came back to the fact that she was really making sure that she was advocating for what was going to be best for the students. And there was a reason. When we were for those that were at the Mass in Olean, the bishop for the entire Buffalo Diocese was speaking, and I didn't realize that he knew who Pat was, and he mentioned that he did know Pat, and that he knew her. He mentioned actually in the parking lot, she would sometimes catch him and give him some feedback. And I thought, okay, it wasn't just me, she but she really was, for me, it was the college council. And I think a lot of people feel that there was a certain comfort we felt in knowing that you had her and that she had the college's back, and she really had everyone's best interest at heart. One time when she was feeling like kind of wanting to share, we were talking about issues or situations when she was a student, and she had gone to school in Washington, D.C., and she surprised me. She actually talked about being kind of wild with her friends and actually driving with some friends, driving up the stairs in a little Volkswagen Beetle up the Lincoln Memorial. I could not imagine that. The Pat that I knew, I could not picture doing that. But she just had led. When I think about that and I read the program at the Mass, which I learned things about Pat I had not known. Over 4,000 hours of service that she gave to different organizations. She led an incredible life, and I will miss her, and I think a lot of us will as well. She's irreplaceable in many ways, but I'm glad that I knew her.
Anybody else would like to come up and say a few words? Thank you, Cindy.
Well, what you guys were saying about the ice cream, my youngest son got to have sand. I don't know why she would do that, feel like she has to give you a little bath of ice cream or whatever, but I know. But that was her. So we're on a beach and we're laying out, my son put suntan lotion on, and he's my calm one, until Pat stood at the end of him and took her sandals and did this all over his body. So when you guys said the ice cream, I thought, well, we'd have that too. But my granddaughter said that Pat still had living to do, and she did. She was, what a force she was. Everything was, she's so colorful. So that was what she said that she didn't want to give up, was Alfred and Catholic Charities. She didn't care when she was ill at the end about her job, but Catholic Charities and Alfred were her passions. And that was hard for her, for us to see her accept that, but she did it with such grace. And I'm telling you, she really, to see her in the hospital and in the nursing home, how many people, the nurses told me, that how much they loved her, that she thanked them for taking care of her and cleaning her. And her demeanor was really special, wasn't it? Just so soft and not like that playful, but just loving and grace. I do want to tell you, one time when we were at a baseball game, our Pat came with us. We were watching one of the kids play baseball, and one of the parents of the other baseball players had a new dog. I think it was a boxer. But Pat loves her dog, so she said, "Oh, what's the name of your dog?" And they said, "Brutus." And she goes, "Oh, like Ex-Brute?" And they looked at her and went, "No, like a sailor." So this was Pat, Shakespeare, a sailor. That is our Pat. And so many times you guys know what I'm talking about. When she entered the room, you had to say, "Did you just take every color from your closet and put it on?" She really did, right? I have pictures of her, and I think, wow. And then for the memorial, our orange. We all wanted to wear orange, and we came up, "Wow, I hate orange, it's so ugly," but we decked out in our orange, and that was really bad. But, you guys know her on the collegiate level. We wanted to share a little bit of what she was like at home. And my husband said so perfectly how humble she was, because when we heard all of these accomplishments, we were blown away. We had asked Pat when she retired to come live in Buffalo so that we can all kind of be her family, watch out for each other. And she said she was gonna, but then I found out from other people that she really was hesitant on that because of the drive to Alfred. She wanted to stay with Alfred, I don't know, forever, but she got to be in Buffalo for a little bit. She was in Orchard Park at the nursing home for a while, so I got you back. He's in Buffalo. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Even while she was in Buffalo, I still did get the phone calls as checkups. So she was still here in heart and spirit in many ways as well. Anybody else would like to say a few words?
I'm Leslie Hagstrom. I'm a sort of retired attorney. And I met Pat when I moved to Allegheny County after I got out of law school in 1977. And she was the first female attorney in Allegheny County. And in 1977, that was a pretty big deal because it was definitely a male environment. And I was the second attorney. She took me under her wing, and together we started breaking down barriers with, some success. As it turned out, she always, other than the short time when she was the district attorney, she was always a defender. She always represented people who could not afford their own attorney. And I generally worked as an attorney for social services, so I was invariably on the other side. And Pat was a tremendous advocate for her clients. However, unlike a lot of defense counsel, she had enough experience and enough understanding that she knew how to figure out what was going to happen in this case. And she knew how to talk to her clients about, this is where we're going to go, and we could fight this for 20 years, but it's not going to help. This is what you need to do, A, B, C, D, E. And I could work out settlement agreements with her that were fair and equitable for everybody in a way that some attorneys would, they just were going to say no to everything because that's what their client wanted. She always looked at the big picture. She always knew the equities, but she also knew her clients. She always talked to them. She always developed a relationship with them. She almost never had a client who said, I can't deal with this attorney, I want another attorney, because she listened. And that was her big gift. She became a good friend of mine. We were shopping buddies. I tried really hard to get her not to shop, but it was completely hopeless. But every shopping trip included shopping and food, her two favorite things. So we always went out to dinner and shopped. I tried so hard to get her not to give me Christmas gifts. And finally we did, and birthday gifts, and we finally did, you reach an age you don't want more stuff. Except for Pat. She wanted more, she had lots of many things. Like 3 Cokes that are almost identical, and orange. It was heartbreaking to me when I visited her in the hospital and I visited her in the nursing home, and she just did not know who I was anymore. And it was just difficult because we went through so many things together. I had 3 children, and my 2 oldest were a pain in the ass. As teenagers, they got into trouble, and we had Pat on speed dial. And there was at least one occasion where she had to come to an arraignment in the middle of the night for my son, who got arrested for spitting on the sidewalk outside somebody's house. And she was always there. She really, despite that, developed a great relationship with my kids. My son, John especially, was just heartbroken when Pat got sick. And he has, like you described at the college, kids knew that she listened and she cared. And for an adult, especially a single woman who never had children of her own, to really understand how to parent and how to be a friend was pretty unusual. She served her time as president of the Bar Association, did a great job. she had a little trouble with one of her bosses who just absolutely resented her time that she took for college council. But she did it anyway, because it was so very important to her to take part in and work for the College of Alfred State. That was just a critical part of her life. We really miss her. The attorneys showed up for her funeral, many of them, and had an honor guard. In respect, she received an award many years ago from the appellate division called the Lamplighters Award for her services as an attorney. And yet, as close as I was to Pat, I was also astounded by the stuff I read about in her obituary. How did she find time to do all those things? It was amazing. Pat, thank you.
You know, when I had read, you know, her history and legacy and contributions to so many different people and so many different organizations, you know, for those of us at Alfred State, we thought, you know, she like slept in a door over there because she was always here and always, you know, present for all of our events and just present for a phone call or whatever you needed her for. It just felt like she was always here. And so to see that and hear that everybody felt that, you know, who were in her presence, that she was always there for them. I think that just really captures who Pat was. Anybody else would like to say a few words? Okay. You know, in the end, you know, when she was becoming more ill, you know, we had talked to her a few times and visited her, and true to her nature, she never talked about herself. She always, her biggest concern was others. How is Alfred State doing? How is Catholic Charities doing? How are my friends doing? You know, and she worked tirelessly for them, you know, for others. And, you know, there's and I think she did it because she knew the great potential that was present, you know, in every human being. And she really strove to bring people or organizations up to their greatest potential. And I'd like to think that in the time spent with the people and the places she felt most passionately about, in the end, she decided that it was time to rest, because she knew that because of her tireless efforts, you know, we have gotten to that place where we knew, and she knew all along, we were capable of achieving and getting to. And if there was one thing, you know, that I could say to her today it would be, it's okay, Pat. It's time to rest. You've done your job. We're all here and at this great place because of your great work. And we want future people and generations to know about that. And so we've created a few legacy opportunities for her. One of them, which I'll invite you to in just a second, is a leadership suite we dedicated in her honor. So our leadership suites are designed to engage our students in civic projects and leadership. A lot of the brainchild behind that was through Dr. John Anderson and his contributions to making this whole space a possibility and those leadership suites a possibility, in combination certainly with Pat's efforts as well. And the whole idea behind that is that we give students a space so that they can learn how to spread their wings and develop as young leaders with a focus on community engagement. And what better way to honor Pat than to name one of those leadership suites after her? So in just a brief moment, I'm going to invite you all to take a trip upstairs with me where we'll unveil her plaque for that leadership suite. And I will place a flower in a vase in my own dedication, a remembrance to her. There are other flowers that you may all place in a vase if you're so inclined, and just taking a moment of silence and looking at the suite and thinking about your time that you've had with Pat, and maybe saying something silently that you want just her to know. And you can place your own flower in that vase if you'd like. One other thing that we did do also for her is that we created a scholarship opportunity. Again, with that focus on a student who is civic-minded in nature, to provide them with an Alfred State education with a focus on that community engagement so that we can create the new leaders of tomorrow, the new generations of the Pat Fogartys. I'm very grateful for Annie Constantine for stepping up and being the first supporter to that fund. My wife and I, my wife who's in the background there full of tears, who I'm trying not to look at, is we will match that fund that Annie provided. And I would invite you all to consider giving to that scholarship as well if you are inclined to do so. I think it's another great way that we can remember Pat by making sure that we have a mechanism to continue to give back to our students in her absence, because that absence is going to be very sorely felt here at Alfred State College. And so these are some of the ways that we want to make sure that her legacy continues and that we honor her presence that she has had at Alfred State over the last 30 years. So if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to follow me up, we're going to walk around and we're going to head up the stairs. I'm going to unveil the plaque that we have for Pat in her honor. I will place that flower in the vase, and then you could take a moment if you'd like to look at the suite, kind of see what it's all about. And then please come back down here and stay a little bit for some food and refreshment, and we can continue to share our memories together. Thank you, all of you, for coming, and really appreciate those of you who spoke on Pat's behalf today. Thank you.